All right, let's bring in our boy Brad Graham, who we saw with the dapper overcoat in Philadelphia. Brad Graham, of course, the SF Niners. He does a great job at creating 49ers content, breaking down offensive line, defensive line, everything that goes on with the 49ers. Also did a great job on television this season.
Yeah, he did.
With Cron Ford, with Kate Rooney, and Jason Dumas. Of course, our boy Jason Dumas here at 95.7 The Game. Brad joins us courtesy of the Bud Light guest line. All guests appear on the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Brad, before we get to I guess let's start with the quarterback stuff. We'll get to the Eagles game in a second. What do you make of this report with Brock Purdy and Tommy John? I know some people are saying it's not a reliable source. What did you think when Brock Purdy suffered a torn ACL, UCL? What did you think when he spoke yesterday? What do you think about the injury moving forward?
Well, let's start with the report that just came out, or reportedly a report. It's actually an opinion piece, apparently, from the Dan Patrick Show, from a yesterday interview from this doctor that it doesn't sound like really has a bunch of information directly from the situation. So although Dov had originally put that tweet out and it sounded and is worded like a report, it is opinion from yesterday's interview on a Dan Patrick Show with said doctor.
Okay, that being said, I mean, none of it, we're all guessing here and just like,
Right.
We have no idea when he's going to come back, if he's going to come back. As you look at it right now with the uncertainty, not knowing the timetables and all those things, which we will know in a week or so, how are you viewing the quarterback position in general? Like, who's where? What do you want to bring in? How do you see this thing
Are you
unfolding?
selling Trey Lance stock?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, first of all, I'm just gutted for Brock Purdy having to go through this situation. And, of course, 49er fans who had to watch that game in Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game and the way it all went down. But in regards to looking ahead towards the future with this quarterback position, I think the San Francisco 49ers have to do their best to insulate themselves with as much talent as possible. And as we continue to wait to confirm what is really going on with Brock Purdy, Trey Lance did mention yesterday that he's about 3 to 4 weeks from being 100% cleared and will be ready to go for OTA. So that is at least a good sign moving forward. And as we know, I was ready to rock and roll with Trey Lance last season as the starter, as a lot of us were. And it is going to be very interesting to see how they insulate this room. I think we're starting to look at the quarterback room kind of like we've looked at the running back room under Kyle Shanahan historically, where we need to have as much talent as possible in that room because of the war of attrition with injuries, especially towards late in the year. So if that means bringing in a veteran quarterback, I'm open to basically all options at this point.
One second. Do the player, you follow all the player accounts, and you're pretty tapped in when it comes to the players. Do the players believe in Trey Lance? Not do they believe more in one or the other, but do they just believe in general in Trey Lance?
That is an interesting question. I can speculate at this point about Jimmy Ward went on Instagram Live last night and had an electric live where he effectively said the 49ers have a quarterback problem. And I do believe if Jimmy Ward maybe had a little bit more belief in that situation, he wouldn't have prefaced the 49ers having a quarterback problem. I understand Brock Purdy is hurt, but we have heard that Trey Lance is going to be back and healthy. So it is very interesting to see. I do think the San Francisco 49ers players definitely rallied around Brock Purdy, and they had a lot of confidence in Brock Purdy. And I still think they're trying to feel out Trey Lance. But again, that's more speculation at this point than, actual. I haven't heard directly from them one way or the other.
Brad Graham, SF Niners here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game, courtesy of the Bud Light guest line. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Jimmy Garoppolo, any chance we may see him back in a 49er uniform if this news is true about Brock Purdy?
I thought there was no chance last year that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to return to the San Francisco 49ers. So at this point, I'm not ruling out anything. I think the 49ers have to leave every option open, and if that does mean Jimmy Garoppolo could potentially return, I think because he is a free agent, that gives him more flexibility to go get a deal somewhere else. And I think he put enough on tape out there last season that he is, deserving of a shot at a starting quarterback role, whether with the 49ers or elsewhere. So, but at this point, if they decide that is something that they want to, cross that bridge, then I could definitely see it happening. But I also do see a world where the 49ers move into this year with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance at the quarterback and potentially bring in a different veteran.
Do you believe Tom Brady is officially retired, Brad?
I'm going to have to believe it for now. I think we've seen it back and forth with Tom Brady. But as of right now, I think Tom Brady is retired, and I think that was an option that we were looking for potentially this offseason, but I think that threw a wrench in the plans and all that good stuff.
All right, we need to have you come in studio, and we'll do like an hour or so breaking down the entire roster, the season that was, where they go from here, what they need, all that stuff. Just in summation, looking at this, how big is this window that they got going on right now? Like, do you believe that they still are a Super Bowl contender? Because, man, there's just so much uncertainty at a lot of different spots. Trent might be gone. Jimmy Ward feels like he's gone. We don't know who the quarterback is. They need to shore up the offensive line. Like, how do you view the window right now of winning?
It's a wild situation because we went from believing that the San Francisco 49ers had one of the most stacked rosters in the NFL to now officially in the offseason, and we are littered with questions about what's the offensive line going to look like, what's the defensive line going to look like, is Trent Williams potentially going to retire? It is going to be absolutely fascinating to see how this plays out, and there's a lot of moving parts that need to be addressed. But the window is, I think, somewhat rapidly closing because these players aren't getting any younger. And again, if you lose, the best left tackle, in my opinion, to ever play the game, that's going to be a massive loss. And you go from having a position completely locked up to just so many questions. We don't know if Mike Quincy's going to return. There are a lot of questions heading into this offseason, and if they aren't able to retain a good amount of those players, I mean, D'Amico Ryans is now the head coach
Huge loss
for the Texans. Huge loss. And, we might see Jimmy Ward follow him. We might see Azeez Al-Shaair head over to the Texans as well. So as of right now, that window, I think, is definitely in question.
Brad Graham, SF Niners here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. Also catch him on Crown 4 every Sunday during football season. Did a great job with Jason Dumas and Kate Rooney. He's here on the Bud Light guest line. Last question for you, Brad. Shanahan. I didn't think it was his best performance on Sunday, but I'm not yelling to the high heavens to fire him. I thought this was his best year as head coach of the 49ers. What do you think about that?
I agree 100%. I think, any maybe potential questions you could have had from Kyle Shanahan, I think he answered and proved that what he did with three quarterbacks this year. Again, we saw the Trey Lance scheme. It was completely different than what we saw from Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. So he had to kind of adjust and adjust the game plan as it went and work through a bunch of different situations with personnel. I think Kyle Shanahan proved to me, at least, that any of those kinds of questions, I mean, we're talking about 3 NFC championship appearances in 4 years. That is very difficult to do in this league. So Kyle Shanahan, to me, has solidified himself as one of the best head coaches in the NFL.
Brad, you've been good to us all football season. You've always been good to us. I can't wait to catch up with you. We'll get you in the studio at some point during the off season. We'll do an hour of radio, and we can't wait to do it again next football season during training camp as well. But keep in touch with us, Brad. We'll continue to call you. This is a wild off season, and the 49ers content never gets old, huh? Doesn't dry up.
Never gets old, and I appreciate you boys for having me. It's been a blast this year, and I appreciate you guys bringing me on.
By the way, how'd you survive Philadelphia?
Oh, my God.
I survived a little bit better than your guys' walk-in, that's for sure. I mean, that walk-in was intense. When I saw those videos of you guys walking in with the Philadelphia fans razzing you, oh, my goodness, they were throwing beer at you. I definitely didn't have that experience, but as you guys know, I wasn't totally decked out in my Niner gear because I had to do my Cron 4 responsibilities, right? So, they chirped me 100%. The chirping was absolutely there, but it was good-hearted chirping. I didn't experience anything too bad. So, definitely not as bad as that walk-in that you guys had to experience.
You have no idea.
No doubt, Brad. Brad, take care, man. Continue
Keep
to do what you do.
pumping out great stuff.
Yep.
I appreciate you guys.
You guys
all
the
right,
best.
Brad, real
Love
quick.
that.